We're always striving for more, growing a business, getting that promotion, making the big bucks, finishing the project, but on this never-ending pursuit of more, when do we ever stop and smell the roses? Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Unlock Podcast with me, Ricky Lock, the podcast that is using joy and enthusiasm to unlock how to be the best version of yourself and to create a wonderful and magical life. And today I want to share with you why I think it's really important to take some time to stop and smell the roses. Now, this is recently inspired by some life-changing events that's happened in my life, and for friends and followers who follow me closely, you'll know what's happened, which I will go through in a second. And this is also inspired by a book called The Shit They Never Taught You. It's a wonderful book, huge book, 700 pages, by Adam Jones and Adam Ashton, who, if you are a podcast follower, it's the What You Can Learn podcast. It's a great podcast where they review self-improvement books and non-fiction books, and it's fantastic. And the first chapter is called Smelling the Roses, and I thought this is a great little episode because I'm going to share with you why I think it's really important to take that time to just stop and smell the roses, because something happened to me recently. Very excited and very happily to announce that the birth of Alma Locke. Yes, I can now say her name finally after 9 months of keeping it in and keeping it a secret and nearly blurting it out in front of all my friends and family. But Alma Locke was born on the 21st of November at 2:24 a.m, weighing 7 pounds and 15.5 ounces. And I'm so over the moon, so grateful, emotional train wreck it was during that time. Wow, what a crazy experience it was. But absolutely, wow, I'm a father. It's funny because I actually recorded that episode of Magical Musings saying I'm a father, and that was about literally 2 or 3 days before Alma was born, which is wonderful. And Alma, for anyone, the reason we call it Alma Locke, because Alma is quite an old, traditional, kind of old-fashioned name, but it means to lift spirits. And we think that's a wonderful name. So, yeah, welcome to the world, Alma Locke. Now, the reason I'm talking about this, I will do an episode about being a father as well, but the reason I wanted to talk about it is because through all of this amazingness, a penny dropped for me. It's amazing and interesting that how during the time of that wonderful pregnancy bubble of being there for Danielle, going through, I doff my cap off to her, like, total respect for Danielle before, but after going through that labour, wow, she is a goddess, a superwoman, amazing woman to go through everything she did to deliver the birth of our wonderful, wonderful, beautiful child. Yes, my daughter. Still not getting used to that. But obviously for all that amazingness, that penny dropped where I started to think, well, hang on a minute, the world didn't stop. And when I say that, I mean that I am one of these people that is constantly throwing myself at different projects, being a bit of a yes man, and pardon this horrible phrase, but throwing shit at a wall and seeing what sticks. I've got my fingers in lots of pies, and I prefer the other one, which is throwing shit at a wall. But I've got so many things I'm running at the minute, and so many different things that I've kind of got my fingers involved with. And that's probably because I think I'm a polymath. I discovered this from a great friend of mine, a mentor, Steve McDermott, who was on his CD. And about a polymath is someone that has just lots of different general interests, loads of different things. So I have loads of great interests. I love movies. I play the guitar. I can play the drums. I play the piano. I'm a award-winning magician. I'm a hypnotist. I'm a pickpocket. I'm a trainer. I'm a speaker. I probably am a polymath, right? Which is quite crazy. But one of these great things was that during this time of the pregnancy, that whilst I just completely stopped, which is quite hard for me, I don't usually switch off in the world, but whilst I stopped, the world carried on. The world didn't go under. The world didn't collapse. Life didn't stop. And there was just this wonderful moment where I was just in this bubble of being with my fiance and being with my beautiful daughter. And it just made me realise about what is actually essential and important in my life. And that quote that obviously was at the start of this podcast, which I think is a fantastic quote. Obviously, we're always striving for more, growing a business, getting that promotion, making the big bucks, finishing the project, and on this never-ending pursuit of more, when do we ever stop and smell the roses? And that's what's happened to me. I've actually learned over this last, week and a half now, to just take some time and actually look at what's important in life and realize that actually, wow, yeah, let's smell the roses and let's actually look at what's most important in my life right now. And yeah, I'm actually reading a book as well. Ironically, very strange. It's called Essentialism by Greg McKeown. And in that book, he talks about, it's a great book, by the way, and I'll do a little podcast about that book eventually. And it's an idea about what's really essential in your life to stop you burning out, being too overproductive or unproductive, and just doing too many crazy different things and working on what's most essential in life. But in the book, he talks about how when the birth of his daughter was being born in the hospital, the day after, he had to go attend a meeting, and he decided to take the option to attend the meeting rather than be with his wife and his daughter because he thought about the pressure of that client not going to work with him. And he then started to create this book and teach now people about this idea of essentialism. And the reason I'm saying this and why this is really important is because I'm now asking that question of what is the problems that I actually want in my life? And what are the things that I really want to say yes to? And what is now going to fit around my beliefs and my values? I'm now a father. So I've had a complete shift in the way I see the world. Obviously now I'm not the most important person in the world, but Alma and Danielle, of course Danielle was always important as well, but I'll say that on the podcast for her. But yeah, those are the most important people in my life now. So everything I now do has to revolve around that essentialism piece. What is really essential in my life? What are those beliefs and values? What is it that I really value in my life? I might value fun and having a great time. And if I'm doing projects that aren't fun or having a great time, then why am I doing it? Why am I throwing so much shit at a wall? Of course, there are times when you have to do that to work out what's really important. And I think now, having a baby, I'm smelling those roses and understanding actually, I think that and these certain things are what's going to be important to me going forward. By the way, don't panic. The podcast is still one of those wonderful things that I value. So don't worry, we're not going to stop the podcast. But in the book, the book called The Shit They Didn't Teach You, The Shit They Never Taught You, is based on 300 books that they've gone through over the last 8 years, and they've gone through some key ideas. And one of the great books is by Dale Carnegie, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. And I'm going to read this passage to you because I think this is really relevant. One of the most tragic things about human nature is our tendency to put off living. We are all dreaming of some magical rose garden over the horizon instead of enjoying the roses blooming right outside our windows. And there's this part that carries on in the book that says, the child says, when I am a big boy. And the big boy says, when I grow up. And then the grown-up says, well, when I get married. And then the married man says, well, when I'm able to retire. But when the retiree looks back over his shoulder, somehow he missed the roses that he strolled past every single day. And it goes on in this book about how life is slipping away at incredible speed, and we are racing through space at a rate of 30 kilometers a second. And today is our most precious possession, and it is our only sure possession. There's a lot of content on the internet. I think it's a book as well, about 4,000 weeks. The average span of a human life is about 4,000 weeks. Now, I'm 32, so I don't know how many weeks that could be. Probably 1,000 or two, I don't know. It's probably already gone in my lifetime. That's pretty scary. So I'm now asking myself this question: what is essential anymore? And where do I want to spend my time? As I move forward, I'm not going to be a yes man, and instead I'm just going to work on the things that are most important to me. And as I reflect and think about next year in my diary, I've got amazing things happening in the diary. And some of the things maybe I'm thinking they're not so amazing. So why would I want to spend my energy doing those things that do not fit around my values, my beliefs, and now my wonderful family? So yeah, I guess there's this really interesting thing about smelling the roses, and I probably haven't done it for a while. I've been so focused and fixed on future Ricky. But actually, what about living in the present? I mean, the word present is a gift, isn't it? So why aren't I just smelling the roses every single day? And I guess the question would be, what if? What if you were to be like me and take some time to stop, not have a baby? You don't have to do that if you don't want to. But what if you were to take the time to stop and ask yourself, what is essential anyway? What really fires you up? Are you doing all of the things that make you feel great? Or do the things that you do, are they fitting around what's important to you and your beliefs and your values? Because if you don't stop and take some time to ask yourself and think about these sort of questions, then you might find that those 4,000 weeks of our average lifespan are going to fly by pretty quickly. So take this advice. Stop living in the past. Stop worrying about the future. live in the present and smell those beautiful roses, because you might not know what you are missing. So there we go. A lovely little idea to think about smelling the roses. So take this advice. Stop thinking about future versions just for a moment. Take some time to reflect. Stop living in the past and think about being in the present and enjoy these moments. I'm certainly now trying to enjoy more moments right now in the present with my beautiful, beautiful baby daughter, Alma, because who knows what the future holds? But it doesn't matter, because it's probably all going according to plan. And right now, what's important to me is my family. And so that's going to be one of my beliefs and values going forward, and everything I now do will revolve around that. So, yeah, think of me. Stop living in the past. Stop thinking about the future, but just enjoy those beautiful roses. As always, a huge shout out to the wonderful patrons of this podcast. Thank you, Anthony Howe, Sherry Brenton, Steve McDermott, and Rory Barnes for your continued support. It helps this podcast get made every single week, so thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And if you did listen and you loved this podcast, well, hopefully you're listening, because I'm still talking, so hopefully. If you are listening to this podcast at this point, then head over to Apple Podcasts or Podchaser, leave us a review. I'd love to know what you think of this episode. It gets this podcast shared to more people around the world, and I would really appreciate that. But remember, take some time to smell the roses today. Goodbye.